Hey, it's great to be here. I'm very happy to be here. I'm Gretchen Rubin, the author of The Happiness Project, which is an account of the year that I spent test driving the wisdom of the ages, the current scientific studies, and the lessons from popular culture about how to be happier. I wanted to know if you really did all those things that you think you're supposed to do, would it really make a difference? So I'm going to start by talking about a few of the things I feel like I learned about the nature of happiness, and then I'm going to throw out some ideas for you to try when you wake up tomorrow morning to see if you can make yourself happier. So the first thing, one of the threshold questions that you face when you think about happiness is, well, what is happiness anyway? And I started my career as a lawyer, and I have happy memories of thinking about, arguing about the definition of contract for an entire semester. And if anything, happiness is more elusive. There's something like 15 academic definitions of happiness. And I decided I just wasn't going to worry about the definition. I knew what it was to be happier. If your idea was a little different from mine, that was fine. What I really wanted to focus on was this idea of just day-to-day becoming happier. And it turns out that a lot of people bristle at the idea of happiness. They sort of argue that happiness doesn't even exist, or that it's some kind of magical destination that, could you get there and what would it be like? So it's better just to think about being happier. Then the question is, well, can you make yourself happier? Some people argue that there's a set point that you just are stuck on. And it does turn out that about 50% of happiness is genetically determined. You're hardwired to a very significant extent. But then 10 to 20% is life circumstances, which is things like age, income, education, marital status, health. And then all the rest is very much influenced by the way that we think and the way that we act. So there's a range. We all have a range. You might be a Tigger, who's up here, or an Eeyore, who's down here. But you can press yourself up to the top of your range or push yourself down to the bottom of your range through what you do. And the third question that's a more profound question about happiness is it selfish to want to be happier? And this comes in two forms. The first form is to say that I have every element of a happy life. If I'm not happy already, I must be a spoiled brat. And I certainly shouldn't think any more about how to be happier. And the other form is to think, in a world so full of suffering, it's not morally appropriate to want to be happier. But studies show, and I think if you think about the people in your own life, you'll see this borne out, that happy people are actually more interested in other people and more interested in social problems. They're more altruistic, they give away more money, they volunteer more, they're healthier, they're more resilient, they're more creative, they have stronger relationships with their spouses, their children, and their colleagues. When we're unhappy, we tend to turn inward, to become defensive and isolated and preoccupied with our own problems. And being happy gives you the emotional wherewithal to think about other people. So if you think that happiness is selfish, you should be selfish, if only for selfless reasons. And then, I hope that I've convinced you that it's worthwhile to try to be happier. Then the question is, okay, so what would you do? So I'm going to talk about some very quick ideas that I can convey very easily, since this is a very brief time. I do talk about other more complicated ones in my book, but here I just want to get across these very easy ideas. First of all, happiness can feel very transcendent and very abstract, but a great place to start is with your own body, because your physical experience is always going to color your emotional experience. So, I know this is hard, and I know you should do it, and you just don't. Get enough sleep. Most American adults do not get enough sleep, and more research is showing that this just backs up on you in all kinds of bad ways. It affects your mood, it affects your memory and focus, it depresses your immune system. They even think it causes weight gain. So just turning off the light can do a lot for your happiness. Another thing is to get a little bit of exercise. You do not need to train for the marathon or go to the gym for an hour a day. This is like a 10 or a 20-minute walk is really going to add a lot to your focus, to your memory, to your mood. It's going to elevate your mood for a long time. Exercise is great because it energizes you, but it also calms you down. And if you have trouble sleeping, either falling asleep or staying asleep, exercise makes it easier to get more sleep. A very fast, easy, kind of passive way to affect your mood is to listen to your favorite upbeat music. This is one of the quickest ways you can get in there with your mood. So listen to one of your favorite upbeat songs. If you're desperate to make yourself a little bit happier right away, you can't even like go find your iPod, a thing that you can do is just jump up and down. It is goofy, it's childlike, it's energizing to get your feet off the ground. So just jump up and down. I promise you, you will feel different after you're done, especially if you have an audience. One of the surprising things to me about happiness was that if you looked at the academic research into happiness, this one area was very little discussed. But if you look at popular culture, there was a huge amount of discussion about it. And that is clutter. For most people, outer order contributes to inner calm more than it really should. I completely agree that in the context of a happy life, a messy coat closet or a messy desk is a trivial matter. But for some reason, in my experience, and a lot of people tell me this as well, there's something about getting control of that that makes you feel disproportionately happy. You can self-medicate through closet cleaning. I don't know why, but it's just, many people experience this. In fact, of all the resolutions that I talk about, and that whenever I'm on my blog, I say to people, what have you tried? What's worked for you? The #1 resolution that people mention over and over and over is to make your bed. It sounds so ridiculously trivial and easy, but there's something about doing something every single day, sticking to it, it's manageable. There's a big difference between a made bed and an unmade bed. A bed seems symbolic of yourself or your relationship, so try making your bed. Now, if you were gonna say, what is the key to happiness? If you had to pick one thing, there's a lot of things. This is related to that. It's related to sex. If you're going to pick one thing, a very strong candidate for that one thing, that you could get ancient philosophers and contemporary scientists to agree, is strong relationships with other people, including sex. Strong relationships with other people is maybe the key to happiness. So anytime you're thinking about how to spend your time, energy, or money, it's great to think about whether it's going to strengthen your relationships, because that's a good place to get a lot of bang for your happiness buck. And a great way to build relationships is by joining or starting a group, like this group. It's great to be part of a group, and it's an efficient way to manage relationships. Now, it can seem kind of incongruous to talk about efficiency when you're thinking about something like friendship, but we're all very busy, and it's really helpful to get together in a group where you know you're going to see each other regularly, and also you're forming a social network instead of just trying to have coffee with 20 people, which is just not manageable. Also, if you wish that you had more friends, and you don't really know how to go about it, a good place to look for more friends is the friends of your friends. Think about it. That's called triadic closure. Try to befriend the friends of your friends. That is a very rich source of friendship. So join or start a group. I started a group for people who loved children's literature and YA literature, because it was like the secret passion of mine that I thought no one else shared. And I have all these friends now, because we all share this not-so-secret passion. And the last thing I'm going to mention is a more transcendent value. Because one of the things that makes people unhappy is when they feel like their everyday life doesn't reflect their values. But it can be hard to bring those values into the chaos of your ordinary day. And for me, I have really little kids, and one of the things that worried me was I felt like time was passing so quickly. I wasn't experiencing the moment. I wasn't hanging on to my memories. I wanted to figure out a way to memorialize this time in my life. And periodically, I'd had the urge to keep a journal, but I always abandoned it because it was too much work, and then I felt like a loser. But now what I do is I keep a one-sentence journal. It turns out that one sentence is manageable, and it is enough. One little memory, one observation, and over time, you really do create a record that allows you to remember the past. So it's a way to remember these things that are so important and that might slip away from memory, but in a way that is realistic, that you're actually going to do it. My phrase for this in my mind is that the days are long, but the years are short. And I didn't want to look back and think, wow, it's like high school. I don't remember anything that happened. So the last thing I would say to you is that having done a happiness project myself, I really think that anyone could benefit from doing it. Because to take the time to think about your own nature and what's important to you, and how to translate those values into your everyday life is something that's going to make you happier. Thank you.